As many of you may already know from a couple of videos I did a while back, I firmly believe in the existence of a seventh element of harmony, and that Spike is the most likely candidate to fit that role. But as for what that element would represent, that's a more tricky concept. I remember thinking several years ago that sacrifice might be a good addition for harmony and friendship, and does describe Spike in more than a few of his episodes. I am reminded of his willing sacrifice of the fire ruby in Secret of My Excess as just a minimal example. However, some could argue that sacrifice is a little too close to generosity to be an element by itself, so I was at a bit of a loss. But not too long ago, I was in a conversation with Aramau, the fiery secretary, and she suggested that Spike might actually fit better with the element of acceptance instead. I was quite intrigued by this idea, and must admit there are many examples in the show which would match with this rather nicely. When I say acceptance, I am referring to accepting others for who they are and caring for them just as they are. One should not try to actively change their friends, but encourage them to grow, and the element of acceptance would do just that. They would hold no prejudices and would simply want what's best for those around them. One could also look at acceptance for how you view your own place in the world, and how you can best serve others. Not everyone can be a princess or save Equestria multiple times, but doing the duty assigned to you to the best of your abilities can help someone else be at their best, and that ripples into larger consequences. As far as Spike is concerned, first and foremost we could look at an episode like The Times They Are a Changeling. Pretty much every pony in Equestria had decided that changelings were to be feared, and never to be trusted at that point. And with good reason. Spike, on the other hand, even with his hesitations, had decided to give Thorax the benefit of a doubt. Even in the midst of every pony he cares about most demanding that he step aside, he pleaded with them to put aside their anger. One could also look at an episode like Gauntlet of Fire, and Spike's rather admirable acceptance of the fact that if he doesn't take part in the competition, it could lead to dire consequences for all of Equestria. Even though he knows how outmatched he is compared to every other dragon, he can still accept that no one else can make a positive difference like he can, which in turn allows him to show his strength to Ember, proving that there is value in friendship and leading to a more peaceful coexistence between ponies and dragons. His simple acceptance of "I am the one that needs to do this" led to an alliance that benefited both kingdoms. My main qualm, though, is whether he exhibits this element before Twilight gets her wings. And I would have to include that, yes, acceptance is a definitive part of his nature. At the beginning of the series, when Twilight is assigned to go to Ponyville by Princess Celestia, Spike does not show any signs of being bothered like Twilight is. He is depicted as a fairly go-with-the-flow dragon, especially having to deal with being Twilight's assistant for many years. We all know how erratic and excitable she can be, so she would need someone as easygoing and on top of things as Spike, and Spike would need to accept that Twilight needs special consideration. Not to mention he accepts the fact that he is a dragon surrounded by ponies, beings that he knows differ from him, but he tries to fit in with them anyways and holds no prejudices against them or others. Perhaps the best example of the element of acceptance in the pre-Alicorn Twilight era is the episode Lesson 0. He saw that his best friend was dealing with a personal crisis, and he knew that the issue in question was something that she considered very serious. When Twilight began to go out of control and her friends brushed off her concerns, Spike knew what he had to do. But he also accepted that he himself couldn't directly help Twilight, no matter how much he wanted to. He knew she wouldn't listen to him, only to Celestia. So he wrote to the princess for help and saved Twilight and the rest of Ponyville from the catastrophe she herself created. That attitude of I accept my friend for who she is and I know how I can be a good friend to her is an important element of nearly all of Spike's interactions with Twilight as her assistant and her oldest friend. He loves Twilight for who she is and has learned to deal with her behavior like any true friend would. He knows he can't change her and doesn't want to. That could be the true meaning of the element of acceptance. Working with a friend how they are, not trying to mold them into something to fit with what you would want, and caring for them no matter their flaws. I, for one, feel this is an excellent fit for Spike, as well as for making a very worthwhile addition to the elements of harmony. And I do hope the show will address this idea in some form, someday. But what do you think? Would it make sense for Spike to represent a seventh element of harmony? Would acceptance not only fit with the other elements, but feel different enough to merit its inclusion? I would like to hear your thoughts in the comments below, because as always, I am Dr. Wolf, and I look forward to hearing from you. And Miss Aramau says hello too.